We are lucky to have Congressman Khanna with us, who, in fact, will be talking about this topic. Just as a recap, Congressman Khanna was the individual in Congress who led on getting the Epstein files released. He put forth legislation with Congressman. Looks like Roe's about to jump on, guys, so we'll talk further. But we have lots of news on the Epstein files tonight, and as soon as Congressman Khanna gets on, he'll share the status of the legislation that he is leading on to get the Epstein files released. So we're excited to hear where that's at. There's been a lot of new developments. DOJ has told the Wall Street Journal that, in fact, President Trump was aware of all of the his mentions and his part in the Epstein files. Similarly, today we learned from the Wall Street Journal and other sources that Ghislaine Maxwell is having meetings with Todd Blanche, who's second in command at DOJ. And then, importantly, the Oversight Committee, which Congressman Khanna said he's just having a little bit of trouble getting on. We're going to send him a new invite, guys. 1 second. Hold on. And he'll join us in just 2 seconds. But in fact, what's interesting is that with all of this development, you would think that President Trump would start to come forward and identify that his part in this. But we'll learn more about what we're going to be doing to make this more transparent for the public. We're looking forward to hearing from Roe. And so if he is on, Roe, can you hear me? I'm going to send his invite one more time. Hold on, guys. Ro, if you are on, if you can click on the one that I just sent you. There we go. There we go. Hello. Well, we're cooking with gas now. We have Congressman Ro Khanna with us. So,
Hi,
good
Marie.
evening. How are you?
How are you? What a pleasure. Marie is one of my favorite colleagues. I loved serving with her, and I'm so excited about your success on Substack. You've just exploded. And, your fight for Palestinian rights, you were well ahead of the curve in calling out the massacre that's going on in Gaza, your support of human rights, just a real progressive, pragmatic voice. So it's really an honor to be on.
Well, thank you for coming tonight. And who knew that it would be so serendipitous with our news today, right? So
Yeah.
let me formally introduce Congressman Ro Khanna. He is a leader in Congress. He is the ranking member on House Armed Services and has been known on foreign relations matters, both for peace and working with war time. So just a great leader on that. But very importantly to our discussion tonight is that he is a leader on Oversight Committee. And that is one of the committees that is going to help get the Epstein files out there. But equally important, and it's going to be our first topic tonight, is that Congressman Khanna and Congressman Massey, a Republican, came together on a bipartisan piece of legislation that would require the release of the Epstein files and create transparency. So there's some activity there. And Ro, I'm wondering if you can just share the status of today. I know that Congress obviously has been recessed for in-district time, but what's going to happen with the discharge petition and some of the other activity on committees? And I'll leave the floor to you.
Well, it's been quite a week. I mean, this is all about elite accountability. Are you going to be on the side of rich and powerful men who abused, assaulted, and abandoned young girls, or are you going to be on the side of protecting children? That's really what this is about. And Thomas Massey and I teamed up. We had a bill demanding the full release of the Epstein files while protecting victims. And that bill has bipartisan support. I mean, you wouldn't believe that Republicans we've gotten on Marjorie Taylor Greene, Lauren Boebert, Tim Burchett. It goes to the heart of the MAGA movement, which is they thought they were going to take on these rich and powerful folks and have accountability, have a lead accountability. Now that they adjourned the entire House to avoid a vote on this. But the good news is the House Oversight Committee today, with Summer Lee's leadership, really moved the ball forward, getting a vote to subpoena the files. And that's a great step. Now, obviously, it's going to be for the Justice Department to release those files, and they're going to slow walk it. And we need to continue to put pressure on them to actually comply with the subpoena. But the combination of that subpoena with the combination of us getting a vote on Massey and my bill, I really think is going to get these files to be released, the political pressure, and is turning the tables with having the Democrats now being the party that is for holding the rich and powerful accountable.
Yeah, and so important. So one point of clarification. I know that the Oversight Committee has subpoenaed the files themselves. Are they also intending on subpoenaing Ms. Maxwell?
They have. We already have subpoenaed Maxwell. That was Tim Burchide a few days ago. So they're two different subpoenas. They're subpoenaing the files. The subcommittee voted for it, so Comer is going to then subpoena them, and subpoena for Maxwell has already happened, and in fact, the deposition has already been scheduled in August for Maxwell.
That was it, August 11th, I think I saw.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, good.
Exactly.
Well, outstanding. Will those hearings be public, or will they be provided to the public in some way?
The Maxwell hearings are private. But then after the deposition, there'll be public hearings. So the first deposition is private.
So
Whether they'll release the deposition or not, we'll call for the full release, but that'll be Comer's decision. But the more important thing is after the deposition, they come and testify, and it's pretty typical that the interview or deposition of someone is private because of their legal rights, and they do that first, and then they come and testify in the broader committee.
I'm so pleased. First of all, thank you for creating this transparency and leading on this topic, because this is really about being able to trust government and being able to understand a when you have a power source in place that is not helping working families or the middle class, that they only care about their billionaire friends and their activities, right, and protecting them in times of trouble. And very clearly, the folks that are engaged in the Epstein files, within the files, there's a lot of them apparently, right? I mean, I think there's no surprise that the Wall Street Journal felt so confident about reporting that goofy card and now this information that, in fact, the DOJ said, "Hey, we told President Trump in May that he was in these files." So
Yeah.
with that backdrop, Ro, I know you can't guess, but I would love if you would. What do you think we're going to hear about when the subpoenas come and the files start being disclosed?
Well, it was obviously a big deal that Trump is mentioned in these files, according to the reporting by both the New York Times and the Wall Street Journal. But to me, the more shocking thing that was kind of buried under the lead is they say they also told Donald Trump that there are hundreds of people, influential people, who are mentioned in these files, and that means that this may go pretty deep, and that it seems like a lot of our financial and governing class over the last couple decades had a sense of impunity in how they were treating young girls. And in some sense, this is the Me Too movement. I mean, don't we want accountability for people who acted in this way? Of course, in a deeper sense, it's also the commitment to not having one set of rules for the rich and powerful. And so I think what we're going to see is a lot of people who engage in really gross behavior, things that are really contrary to the basic civilizational values of America, that offend people of faith, of Christian and Jewish faith, of all faiths, of Hindu, Muslim faith, but even the majority faiths in this country that just are offensive at a deep level of the corrupting of this nation, and that offend people who are feminists and care about the basic right of women to consent, and offend people who feel that rich and powerful men don't get justice. And I just think it'll once these names are out there, it's going to be pretty scandalous.
I obviously. So let's play the timeline out, if you will, for us. Um, it sounds like we're going to have some information around the 11th disclosed via the Maxwell tapes. Will anything be shared to the public? I know her meeting will be private with the committee, but will you be able to share anything right after those discussions?
I'm not sure if right after the discussions, but I don't think Maxwell is the silver bullet because remember, Maxwell was indicted twice. Maxwell has an incentive to get a pardon. Who knows what she's going to say?
Right.
Of course, if there's anything that comes out and if she's that is relevant, we will try to get it out. But I really think that the information for the public probably we can expect coming out more after Labor Day
And
when the
then,
Congress is back in session, unless Trump releases them before then.
right. And so you're back in session in what, second or third week of September, is that correct?
Second week of September.
Discharge petition is fully signed by then. You have 11 Republicans, yes, and all of the Democrats. So the discharge position rule then is that you would in fact have to bring it to the floor. The speaker would have to bring it to the floor, correct?
Correct.
Okay, good. So in September, you with this, all of this, one would think that it doesn't lose steam because you and I have had this problem, right? That you talk about something before a recess, and then all of a sudden it's lost its momentum during recess. But my sense, and you tell me if I'm wrong, Congressman Khanna, this won't lose steam, I don't think.
I don't think so. I think the reason is that the most attention Massey and my bill got was the day that Johnson said we're shutting down Congress, right? Until then, it was building. And then when he shut down Congress, people are like, what? He's shutting down Congress because he doesn't want to vote? And so I think they're almost making matters worse by denying this vote and then building up intrigue. And then if you deny, it's sort of like you protest too much and you're adding intrigue to it. You're adding to the frankly sense of conspiracy and is there a deep state suppressing this? And my view is just get it out there. I don't know what it is. I don't know how serious it is, but get it out there. So this is not something that's going to go away. One, it's not partisan. It's not Democrats. In fact, in many cases, it's MAGA screaming the loudest. And two, it's building anticipation.
Yep. Well, good. Well, let's hope that everything comes out that needs to come out and is transparent. Let's make the turn. And before we do that, I'll be sure to send our friends in the White House some crisis management 101 tips. But the turn. So gerrymandering. So it sounds like Trump is giving dictates to Republican governors to add seats to the House. And they'll do that via gerrymandering, but there's only a few states that can do that. There's something like 6 or 7 that legally can gerrymander or redistrict, more appropriately said, in between the two census periods, right? So there's apparently Texas is willing to do that, go into special session. Governor Newsom is talking about it to fight fire with fire, and then 5 other Dem states. So I'll tell you where I stand is fight fire with fire. So if they gerrymander, I think we should. What do you think, though?
Absolutely, that we should have it on the table. I think the challenge is first we need to stop Texas from doing it. I mean, that could be 5 seats. And the challenge in California is that it has to be a ballot initiative. So we could say, look, we want an independent commission once Texas and Florida adopt them. And until then, we can't unilaterally put ourselves at a disadvantage. But I don't know how the voters will react to it. When it passed the Independent Citizen Commission, it was overwhelmingly popular in my state. Now, Trump may have changed that, and maybe we could get it through the voters, but it has to go through the voters. In Texas, it could just be the legislature. So I think our best bet is to fight first Texas uh, with everything we have and not allowing a situation where they get 5 seats.
Yeah, I just know that how Abbott operates, and I have no faith that he and that legislature will do the right thing. I think they'll do the slimy thing, right? So I think we do have to fight fire with fire, and I think that means New York has some capacity to do it. I just learned that Illinois can't redistrict state house seats or state senate seats, but they can redistrict congressional seats. Very interesting little nuance in
Yeah.
their state
Well,
constitution.
the whole delegation supports the effort. So it's not
Yeah,
that we're in any way opposed to it. And of course, we would pick up 3 to 4 or 5 seats.
yeah,
The problem is just the timing and logistics of it in
right. Getting
California
it
are
out
much
there.
harder than Texas. So we'll give it everything, but I don't want to mislead people and saying, okay,
Right.
this is we'll pick up 4 seats in California if we lose 4 seats. We've got to
Right.
fight in Texas, and it's not going to be fighting Texas because we're appealing to have a sense of right or justice. It's making it clear that they could lose some of those Republican seats. The Republicans are nervous, and sometimes they do these redistrictings, especially if it's a wave year for Democrats, and they'll overplay their hand. But it's very scary, this news, because they see the writing on the wall. They know they've done unpopular bills. They know this Epstein stuff is unpopular. They're looking at losing 30, 40 seats, and now they're trying to gerrymander their way into keeping the majority. If they
Well,
hadn't gerrymandered North Carolina, Hakeem Jeffries would probably have been speaker.
100%. Although I think that we have some good news in all of this. All of this piling on of bad news between the big bad bill and the Epstein stuff and this just the general stupidity, cruelty, and incompetency. I think it's starting to pile up. And I mean, we're seeing this in all the polling. He's down to 39%, kind of in a weighted average across the top 10
Is he
polls.
that low? Yeah,
Yeah,
wow.
the weighted
Well,
average.
I was I was with some pastors with Mr. Clyburn in South Carolina. One of them said to me, they intended it for evil, but God made it good from the scripture. And he was at a theological view, which was human beings doing bad things, and but God made something good of it. And his point was that Trump is so overreacted in the way he's treating immigrants, in what he's doing in taking away health care, in what he's doing in being non-transparent about the Epstein files, and how he's going after universities, and how he's insulting and law firms and private companies, that what's going to emerge from this is something totally rejecting that, and a more hopeful vision for the country, and that would be the salvation or the rebirth of the country. And I do believe that. I believe that's what our party needs to fight for.
Well, that's a good message, and I hope so too. So, speaking of billionaires, we talked about that a little bit earlier. You've got a tour across the country, and I think you've done something like 15 of them or more called the Billionaires Over Benefits Tour. Can you tell us a
Yeah,
little bit about that? I
benefits
think
over
it's
billionaires.
brilliant.
Benefits over billionaires.
Benefits over
Yes.
billions. Yeah.
Well, look, it's pretty simple. You can't have tax cuts for billionaires to take away healthcare from working class folks, to take away food assistance from working class folks, to take away education from working class schools. We've never had a bill that does this, that gives money to the richest Americans and takes away things from working class Americans. It's a transfer from the working class to the richest Americans. Now, if Donald Trump's plan was to enrich my district in Silicon Valley, he's doing a great job. But he doesn't get to be called the president of the heartland when he's helping the most richest district in the world. The people who are going to benefit are the billionaires in my district. We are $5 trillion companies. The guy who represents the most billionaires in the world is saying you can tax them more, and that's not a bad thing. And so, what we're trying to take the message is that how much this is hurting ordinary people. And what we actually need is just the opposite. We need to be increasing taxes on the billionaires, and we need to have Medicare for all. We need to have childcare at $10 a day. We need to raise the wage. We need to have free public college and 1,000 new trade schools. We need to build millions of new homes that are affordable and of quality.
So you sound like FDR to me, right? I keep saying that there's a gaggle of FDR Democrats out there, and I think there's a flavor of it that is Zoran Mandani too. That for my money, FDR Democrats want to build things in America and kind of rebuild the infrastructure, bring manufacturing to small towns, bring technology to small towns, and really be the builders, right? And restore America, so to speak. So I like what you were saying, and I think that's a powerful message for our team moving forward for 2026. Do you think that that kind of platform will work in a lot of working families districts because they are desperate for opportunity? They are desperate to make ends meet. They are, 60% of them are right now have two jobs or more, right? So do you think that platform, because it's not just words, it has to be sincere and the ability to do it. How do you feel about that as our way forward to win?
Absolutely. I think we need to be the party of good jobs, lowering costs, no more wars. I mean, that's the essence of what we need to stand for. I mean, people are not in jobs that pay enough, right? That's the first thing. They don't have jobs that are stable. They don't have jobs that are paying a high enough wage. There's not enough economic activity, economic vibrancy in many communities that were hollowed out with industry having left. They haven't seen the boon of new technology. They don't have capital. The jobs that are there aren't union jobs or aren't paying a high wage. So first thing, our party stands for good jobs. Second thing is they're burdened with costs. Rent is too high. Childcare costs $12,000 a year. Healthcare people have medical debt. They can't afford premiums. So ours is the party that says not only are we going to have a 21st century Marshall Plan for America to create good jobs, we're going to have Medicare for all, childcare $10 a day, raise the wage. And, we're not promising the sky. This is what we're going to fight for. This is our North Star. We'll fight every day to get good jobs and lower costs. And then they're against these dumb wars. They don't want to see billions of dollars going into the Middle East. I just passed a resolution to say, let's figure out how much this Iran strikes actually cost us. How much is our increased troop presence down in the Middle East? How much did that whole operation cost us? How much is the troop presence they're going to continue to cost us? Was that worth it as opposed to putting those billions of dollars into getting more trade schools in America, more apprenticeships in America, more free college in America, and more better K through 12 education? I think that I call the whole thing a new economic patriotism, but I think it's very much what FDR did.
Economic patriotism, that's 100% where I'd like to see things go. So let's bring out our crystal ball and say that we have a landslide. Let's say we pick up 40 seats.
Wow.
I can see it. I can see it. What do you think are the first three things that have to be done to ensure that we can reverse the gerrymandering and the underhanded electoral behavior of the Republicans? Meaning, like, what's going to keep us safe? Like, what comes in my head right away is expand the court, make sure DC becomes a state. Like, those are the things that, like,
Right.
in the area. So tell me what you think should happen. Boom, 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 first out of the gate.
Well, look, obviously, we need to protect voting rights. I mean, they've taken away the polling places, they're kicking people off the polls, and stop this kind of partisan gerrymandering where they aren't even respecting voting rights districts. So that was what we tried with H.R. 1, as you remember when you were in Congress, and passed the House, and it didn't pass the Senate because of Manchin and Sinema. We need to actually get that passed and signed. I think it has to include reform of the Supreme Court. I believe that there should be term limits for Supreme Courts and then 2 appointments. I'm also open to expanding it. But the main thing is to get the term limit so that these people aren't there for 40, 50 years. And so every president gets 2 appointments. And then I would look at repealing, obviously, this bill that just passed. I mean, the cuts to Medicaid, the cuts to food assistance, the tax breaks to billionaires, and then rebuilding our agencies. I mean, they have decimated the U.S. aid that gives aid to people. They have decimated the EPA, decimated NIH with the cancer research, decimated FDA that approved drugs. We're going to need resilience and rebuilding of these agencies. And then we can talk about our positive agenda of how we rebuild the country and build jobs and cut costs. Well, the first is just getting the country back where it is. By the way, on USAID, very briefly, what's happening in Gaza is just unconscionable. I know you've been talking about it, but there's mass starvation going on. World Health Organization has said 900,000 people, kids, may face starvation. There are kids literally crying themselves to sleep because they don't have enough food. You have the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation that has been distributing this aid, and 1,000 Palestinians have been shot, killed because of where they're having to go to aid. And they're desperately crying, every organization, to allow food, water, electricity into Gaza. I just mentioned that because we need everyone's voice on that. We're really complicit with Netanyahu's blank check in a mass starvation situation. And then obviously you are against sending more weapons and money to Israel. I voted against it. I voted against. Now, just to be clear, I mean, I voted, and I've always voted for Iron Dome and defensive weapons, but I voted against the big aid package in April to Netanyahu, and have always said that we need to not give him a blank check. And Trump has, since he's coming to office, provided $14 billion more of offensive weapons for the war. Yeah, and that's right on brand for you folks because
Congressman Khanna has a brilliant bill out there that's an anti-corruption bill that includes no corporate PACs, limiting the amount of money that can be given by individual donors, and a wide variety of other things. And if you can just give us a quick hit on that, I think that's a very important bill. Please speak to that.
Well, political reform gets to the core issue of political corruption. It would ban all PAC and lobbyist money in this country. I am one of 10 members of Congress who takes no PAC money, no lobbyist money, never taken a dime. It would ban super PACs in this country. Our colleagues, you included, were taken out in part because of super PAC spending. Money that came in from interest groups to take members of Congress out, even though they were popular in their own districts. It would ban members of Congress from going and becoming lobbyists. I mean, you didn't leave Congress and then start lobbying Congress about some committee you sat on. It would have term limits for Supreme Court justices and a code of ethics. So, and term limits for members of Congress and senators. That's one of the more controversial things, but I believe it's needed because too much of the Congress is stuck.
I think that part of our problem in our own party is that some folks have stayed too long, right? So I'm all for term limits. It does look like we're up at your hard stop, Congressman Khanna. It's a delight to see you.
Look, Maria, you're a true friend. Yeah, I'm so happy for all the things you're doing. I know there's going to be future public service for you. I don't know whether that's you're going to run or you're going to work for the next Democratic administration or whether or what form it looks like. But we need your voice. We need your commitment to values and principles. And what I admire about you is that you stuck to your guns. You didn't. You could have just shifted with the wind when your district shifted and said, "Okay, I'm going to abandon some of my more progressive views." But you ran as who you are. And I think in the long run, when you read the biographies of people like Lincoln or others, that the consistency with values, I think, is really what makes a person. And so I'm appreciative for your voice, and I'm grateful for our friendship.
Well, right back at you. And it is a team sport, right? So, everybody on this call tonight, be supportive of Congressman Khanna and all of his work. He's really driving the hard work through Congress. So, let's all be a great team out there and fight the good fight against the corruption in the White House and in the MAGA movement. And maybe a year from now, we're going to start having some really great news. So, with that,
I'm
Congressman
holding you
Khanna,
to the 40 seats prediction.
we're in
All
it. All
right.
right, everyone, have a great evening
Thank
and
you.
thank you for coming tonight.